Good afternoon, everyone. I am Emily Bull, DRI's Marketing Manager, and I will be your moderator for today's CloudSuite Industrial version 10 demo. Before I introduce our presenter today, I just want to go over a couple of housekeeping items. All of our attendees are muted as you enter the session. Today's presentation will be about 50 minutes. Time permitting, we will open the floor for a live Q&A at the end of the session. If you would like to ask a question, you may do so by typing and submitting your question in the question tab of your webinar toolbar. You can submit a question at any time throughout the session. And if we don't have time to respond to your question during the session, we will follow up with you directly via email after the session. We'll also be recording today's session, and the recording will be emailed to everyone following the live presentation, most likely tomorrow morning. Thank you all for joining DRI today for this live demonstration of Infor CloudSuite Industrial version 10. I am pleased to introduce our presenter today. Dave Lindeman is a senior business solutions consultant here at DRI. Dave has over 25 years of experience working with ERP and supply chain management solutions and helping clients automate and transform their business operations. Dave, I think everyone's really excited, anticipating seeing some of the new features of version 10. So without further ado, I will let you take it away.
Great, thank you, Emily, and thank you everybody for attending today. We certainly appreciate this. In today's session, we're going to do a kind of an overview of CloudSuite 10 from a look and feel standpoint and show you some of those features that are kind of embedded in the Infor OS and allow you a lot of nice productivity features as well as some analytical mobility. But we're going to start by taking a look at some navigation and personalization features. And I'm sitting in a standard web browser. I happen to be sitting in Chrome. It could be IE, it could be Firefox, it could be Safari. But basically just operating in a standard web browser. And as you can see, I'm on a home page that has a number of components. These components are called widgets. As you'll see in a little bit, we've got a widget catalog that allows me to put different content on these home pages. So these happen to be menu widgets at the top. As I kind of work my way down the page, you see some metrics widgets here. This happens to be an announcements widget sitting in the middle of the screen. If you want to broadcast information to your organization, you can do that through these announcement widgets. Here I see my customer interactions down here, and I can drill into additional information from here if I wanted to. As we work our way down, I've also got a dashboard widget here, and this one is our burst dashboard. We're going to talk about our burst analytical capabilities in a little bit. You can see I've got some analytical capabilities here. By the way, you can always add a form to a widget. So if you wanted one of your CloudSuite or Sightline forms to be sitting on a home page, they can be there as well. Now down here, I've got an external source. So I've got a website that's displaying. That's our website in the widget. So I mean, there's some utility behind that where maybe you'd want to have, if I was maybe a maintenance buyer, I want the Grainger website sitting right there so I can kind of go to the catalog and look at the the spare parts or maintenance items that I might want to buy. So a home page really allows a user to kind of pull that content together the way they want it. Now there's a number of predefined widgets out of the box. You can use those, things like a buyer's homepage or a controller's homepage, or you can take those and tweak them, or you can just simply create them the way you need them for your particular role. So you can have more than one homepage. You can see these little bubbles up here. You'll see a listing I've got down here where I've got a number of different homepages listed. So I can retain more than one homepage. So if I go to this second little bubble, you're going to see one I call Dave's homepage as an example. We'll come back to this and I'll do some changes on this just to show you how easy it is. Maybe another view would be an executive dashboard where I've got content on a page that's just metric oriented. Maybe it's pipeline or on-time shipment percentage, or again, it might be a dashboard. So as an executive, I've kind of got a pulse of the organization sitting right there in front of me. But as a user, if I wanted to personalize one of these home pages, it's very simple. For example, if I wanted to add, let's just add an item lookup widget. I'm going to go up to the upper right-hand side. I'm going to say edit, okay, and I'm going to click on add widget. And I know I want to do an item lookup, so I'm going to type in the word item and just hit enter. And there's all my item related widgets. This is that widget catalog that I talked about earlier. There's my item lookup widget. So I'm going to hit the plus. I'm going to get out of here. You'll notice it's added it to the bottom of the screen down here. Well, I want it to appear up here in my primary display. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shrink down one of the other widgets, and maybe I want it to be to the left of that. So I'm going to drag and drop it. So now I've kind of got the home page oriented the way I want it. I'm going to hit save. And you'll see it'll come back, it'll refresh that page, and we've got that item lookup widget. So now if I go down to the item lookup and type in, this happens to be inventory items, I type in the word cable. Okay, so here's some of my cabling products, and I could start drilling into these as well, like I said before. All right, some other features that you can use on a home page within a menu widget, I'm going to kind of display up here. So that executive dashboard we looked at, you can call a home page from another home page. So watch this, when I hit that executive dashboard, we go right to that home page. If I want to, I could have one that took me back as well, or I can just hit the bubbles up there. So that's another thing we can do within the menu widget. This second menu icon, this customer information, I happen to set this up as a folder. So a widget can be, directly going to an application, or if I hit this, you'll see it takes me to 3 different applications that I can go to within that folder. So I can have this folder in concept, or I can set up predefined filters on a menu selection. So you can see here I've got the items form, all right, and I've got it filtered for just DRI family code. Well, if I right click on that, you'll see when I click edit, that little filtering appears right here. So it says family code equal DRI. I've got that embedded in that syntax, all right? So that when I hit that, it's not just going to bring up the items form, but it's going to bring up the items form with those items that are in this case, the DRI family code. All right, so you can have any type of filtering you want, but that's just an example of some of the different things you can do on one of the home pages. So it's giving you some utilities without having to go into programming that enable a user to kind of get easily to that information that they may be looking for. All right, that's a little bit of an overview of home pages. Now I'm going to take it a level deeper, and we're going to go into a new CloudSuite 10 form. And I'm going to take you back to that items form we were just on. So again, now in this case, I didn't pre-filter. I'm coming into a blank form. So just like you're used to today, probably in your Sightline product, is I can do filtering, but you'll notice the new look and feel of some of the forms is it's a much larger size field. It's much larger text. You can see we've still got our collection over here on the left. But if I start filtering and say I want to find family code DRI and hit my filter button, so I'm going my filter in place, there's all those DRI items. Now I might want to be more specific, and just like you probably do today, I only want purchased items. All right, so I pull those up. Okay, now the one thing you can do now is you can save those filters. So I pulled up all purchase items. If I wanted to save that filter, I could just click on new filter and save, but I've got some pre-saved for this demo, and I want to look at, let's say, manufactured items. So I click on manufactured, and now you see it filters on those. So once you've established kind of the filters you want, you save them, and you've got this drop down up here in the upper right-hand side that you can use. Now, a couple different things about the change and the way this kind of screen is architected. They call these our web forms. All right. If I want to look at the entire grid, okay, I can just click on the little expansion over there, or I can contract that back. All right. If I wanted to look at different what used to be the buttons, okay, so and I can still have my buttons on the form if I want to, but if I wanted to go to item stockroom locations, I can do that in the show me drop down over here. So if I pull that open, you'll see that over here on the right. All right, and here's my stockroom locations. I've got aisle 1, bin 1, aisle 1, bin 2. But the one thing with the new version, you'll see whenever I have a linked form open, so in other words, I'm looking at this base assembly. This is a linked form. If I go back over and I choose the bracket, okay, so let's just go to the steel rail bracket, and I go back over, that's a linked form. So now that's going to update with that bracket information, but I know that's a linked form by that little link symbol up there on the upper right hand side. All right, now the other thing that I can do, if I don't like this little show me drop down, if I want to kind of have those options displayed right on the screen, I can hit this little pin. And what that does is that opens up all those options right here in the middle of the screen, and that stays there if I don't unpin that. So here's all basically these are all my tabs on the top section. But if I want to see my inventory information, there's my item warehouse, item stockroom, etc. If I want to get rid of this, I just hit the pin again and we go back. All right, so pretty simple. Now, as far as working with items in the form or the grid, pretty much what you're used to. If I change an item here, if I change this to an ABC code of B, we're going to see that in this case, that little gold diamond represents a record that's kind of pending change. All right, or I could go over to the grid. Maybe I want to do more of a mass update. Okay, so I'll go to my ABC code column. I'll hit my edit. Okay, and I'm going to replace the value in the collection. Let's say we want to replace all my ABC codes B with C's. Click replace all. And now we're going to see anything that was a B before become a C. All right, and again, there's our indicators of what rows changed. If I decide I don't want to change one of those rows, I can click on that. I can hit the refresh. So that's going to refresh that row. So that went back to a B. Or I could say, I don't want to do any of what I just showed you. I'm going to refresh all. Okay, and I say, no, I don't want to save my changes. And we're right back to where we started. So got those features as well. And that's throughout the system. Now you've also got all your import and export capabilities with Excel. Little different in that because I'm in a browser. If I wanted to import, say, information, I'm gonna grab the information that I want to import. So I'm going to grab my item import information. I'm going to go over to the grid. I'm going to hit edit, paste rows append. I'm going to paste it. So this is a little different here. Now you paste it, it'll just show up in the grid down here. I paste it into this window. I click OK. And if that edit's okay, I'm going to see little blue stars next to those. If I had a problem, I'd see a little red exclamation point next to one of those rows. All right, but everything edited there fine. Now again, if I made a mistake, I don't want to do that. I'll just go up, I'll hit my refresh. I don't want to save those. And we're right back to where we started that import. Okay, and I could export just as easily. All right, so some of the navigation around the new forms and kind of the look and feel of the new forms. Now, like I said, you've still got the capability of adding buttons to a form. So if you like the buttons as they used to sit over here on the right, you can add them to a form like I've got down here. So you can do that as well. All right, we'll talk a little bit now about some of the personalization capabilities. Now, some of you may be familiar with Mongoose and the abilities to personalize, and most likely you're having to use a smart client or a desktop client to do that today. Well, that's no longer required with CSI 10. You can go in and do it right in a web browser. We've got full Mongoose personalization capabilities within the browser. If I go to a form, let me just take you to a vendor's form in this case. Maybe I want to change the category name and maybe highlight the field. We'll add something over here in this dead space. So I'm going to hit my little paintbrush and go into design mode. Okay. Now it's going to ask me, do I want to do this for my user ID? Do I want to do it for the site as a default? Or do I have a group of users I want to do it for? In my case, I'm just going to keep it at my user ID. Right. Okay. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go back to my vendors form. It's going to pull it up and allow me to start making some of those changes. So now I've got my toolbar over here on the left. Got another toolbar here on the right. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to go down to that category field we just saw, instead of category, maybe we want that to be maybe a vendor category. Okay, so I'm going to give it a description, vendor category. So we see that change. Maybe I want this field here to be kind of highlighted. So we'll just make that a background color of yellow. So we'll go down, we'll choose our color palette and click OK. Okay, so now we've got kind of our yellow pattern in there. And then I'll throw something over here. We'll just throw calendars, look nice. We'll throw a calendar over there. Okay, so we'll throw that in here. All right, so I've made my changes to my vendors form, and if I save that at this point, and we go back, and we'll look at our form. Now I'm going to do I'm going to exit out of here and do a refresh on the cache just so I can look at this new form. So I'm going to just unload my cache, and we're going to go back in and look at that. And you'll see that there's my calendar, there's my change to my field. I could have moved fields around, I could add fields, but I did that all in a web browser. So if there's any tech folks on the call today, and you're used to using the Mongoose tool to do form changes, you can do that within the confines of the browser now if you want to. All right, great. Wanted to talk about one other feature called themes. Some of you may use these today. I think they come out in late 9 versions, but if you're not, example of a theme would be this. So I'm in a customer form, let's say, and if I go up to View User Preferences, and I go to the Layout form or Layout tab. Right now I'm in a theme I call my DRI pre-sales theme. That's the one I like using. But if I choose red, white, and blue, okay, there's our red, white, and blue Memorial Day or 4th of July theme, if you will. So I could have a number of other themes. For those of you, we happen to be headquartered out of Pittsburgh. For those of you Steelers or Pirates fans, here's my black and yellow theme. All right, so you can change colors on grids, you can change colors on toolbars, so you can pretty much make that look and feel the way you want. Maybe you want it to look like kind of the colors of your organization. Okay, so that's called theming, and that's fully available as another option for you in your CloudSuite environment. All right. All right, some of you may have used global search if you're in a later version, but it's a little bit enhanced in 10, where it's giving you maybe some more search capabilities that you didn't have before. Think of this as kind of a global search capability, like a Google search, where I know part of a name of something. Maybe it's a customer, maybe it's an item. So I'm going to put in the word bowl, and I've got some logic I can apply to that. Begins with, contains, etc. I'm just going to say it can contain any of these words, and I can say from all sources in the system, so it's going to search basically all tables, or I could select a certain table I wanted to look for, and at this point, if I hit my search button, it's going to go out and it's going to rank the hits in terms of the number it found in each of the various tables. So in this case, it found 58 in the items table, and you'll see the reason it found those is because it had the word bolt in the description, maybe. If I look at the customers, I happen to have somebody who was on Bolton Drive, but I also had somebody named Bolt House Farms, right? So it's given me that ability to go out and search for something by maybe one little piece of information I have, and find all the hits in the system. And I could have drilled back, by the way, to the forms from there. All right, I'm going to kind of shift gears into some of the productivity tools now. Now, one component that's part of the Infor OS is what we call IDM, or Infor Document Management. I'm going to show you how the documents are used once they're in the system, but I'm going to go right to raw document management search capabilities first. So here I am, I'm sitting in in document management, and I want to see maybe a specific group or set of documents. Now you've got user-defined attributes that you can classify documents by, and that's what I've done. So I want to go in, I'm going to do a search by a group, and I'm going to say I want to find everything in group DRI. Okay, so I'm going to do, that's just a user-defined attribute. And now I found 35 matching documents out there. So you can see drawings and specs and pictures. And now I want to be more specific. So I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to save that portion of the search, but I want to find anything where document type is equal to spec. Okay, so I'm looking for all my specs at this point. Okay, so I found 7 matching documents. Now I could drill into those, or maybe I didn't mean spec. I wanted to find all my drawings. All right, so I'm going to go for drawings to a search. All right, so I've kind of honed in on the document I'm looking for, and I'm going to drill into it from here. So maybe it's this BKT 101 drawing. So I can see the drawing, obviously. Here's those attributes that we were talking about. Again, I haven't even named all the attributes, but you could have others if you wanted. But here's my group and my document type, product type, what's the functional area. I've got some file and security information, but what's real helpful, because this is a full document management system, I can check in, I can check out. Here's my revisioning history. If I want to revert back to a previous version, I can do that. So I've got a full document management system within the confines of Infor OS that can be used throughout the system. And I'll show you how that's used. So here's an example. I'm going to go into context sensitive or related information. And I'm going to go, basically, I'm pulling up the item master. All right, I've got my collection of records. And if I hit this little caret on the upper right-hand side of the screen, it's going to open up my context viewer. There's my documents associated with this item. All right, so you can see I've got a spec sheet, I've got a drawing, I've got a picture out there. All right. Now, if I go to a different item, let's go to the steel rail bracket. You'll see because it's contextual, it's showing me, only those documents associated with the item I'm focused on. Now, this isn't just in the item master. This is throughout the system. So you're going to see how this capability. In fact, let's do this. Okay, so I've got this reusable fruit fly trap. Okay, I've got a spec. I've got a maybe a product brochure or something. So I've got those 3 documents associated with that. But watch this. I'm going to hit this orders button down here. That's going to take me over to my customer order entry screen, and I see what I thought there were only 3 documents. Well, how come there are 8? Well, the first 3 are related to this item. All right, so there's 1, 2, 3 documents up there related to that item. The last 5 are sales related. There's my order verification document. There's a packing slip. Okay, there's a bill of lading. And if I want to look at any of these documents, I can simply click on it and pop it up if I want to. All right, so pretty simple. Pretty simple to get to that electronic information. And by the way, to add those is very simple as well. If I had a documents folder sitting up here and I wanted to add something to it, I could simply drag and drop it into this window, and it'll attach it to that record. All right, so it's pretty simple to add as well. All right, so we talked document management. We talked about how that gets kind of used in the system through the context sensitive features. Another productivity tool we've got is something we call Mingle Collaboration. Now, this is allowing business users to have kind of a business-related, social media-like environment where we can collaborate with each other and share related business information. So, for example, I was on the item screen when I did this. I sent this message to Kirk Taylor. Okay, I wanted Kirk to review some product information on this item. I attached a drawing. Okay, so there's a drawing. So that's not a big deal. I mean, you can do that via email today. But what the system does is it automatically builds this drill back link down below. So if I click on that little link, it's going to take Kirk right to the screen I was on when I sent that and the record I was on. So here it took me to the item master, the record that I created, or the record that I wanted him to review. So think of it as almost like an ad hoc workflow scenario that doesn't have to be pre-set up. The way I did that was I just clicked on this little share button in the upper right-hand side of the screen. When you click that, it automatically embeds the information it needs up here to direct Kirk back to that record. And then I just started typing in @Kirk. Okay, it found Kirk in my address book. And now I started typing my message, and I did my attachment using this little feature down here. Okay, so that's called Mingle Collaboration. A nice way, again, it's almost like an ad hoc workflow for those situations where you want to direct someone to a record and have them see that live information. Now, think about what you do today. You most likely put a sticky note on a document, put it in a mailbox, the person gets it, maybe they look at it 2 or 3 days later. That's already stale information. With this, you're doing, think of it as an electronic sticky note. You're directing them right to that record you want them to look at. It's live information, it's relevant data, and you've eliminated that whole paperwork thing that you might be doing today. All right, some of you may use workflow in the system today. There's probably 80 plus predefined workflows you can activate in CloudSuite or SiteLine. If you want to create new workflows, you can certainly do that using the event handler or event management system. Give you an example here. In fact, this is another of those folders. So if I click on that, it's going to take me to kind of a subset of information. What we're going to do here is I've got a simple workflow that says when I add a new customer, I want a couple different inputs to that customer master record. So let's go ahead and we'll copy from an existing. Let me just copy from Gilmore. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just go up to Actions, Duplicate, and just blank out the customer number. And we'll say maybe we have another Gilmore at a different address. We'll just say this is Gilmore Distribution West, and we'll just give it a different address. We'll just say it's 10 Hill Street, and they happen to be in, we'll just keep it Provo. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to save that record. Okay, so we're creating, and it hasn't created a new customer. Okay, it's put them in a suspense stage, so they're awaiting approval of some type. I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to go over to my inbox. Now, this could have sent it to Outlook as well, but you'll notice that Gilmore Distribution West, in fact, TBD means it doesn't have a number yet, requires sales input and approval. So I go down to the bottom, I click on my response tab, and I say, yeah, I want to go ahead and respond to that. So I'm going to add sales information. Now maybe I add territory and price code and customer type. I'll say, okay, those all look okay. I'm going to approve that. Maybe that passes it on to someone else. So now maybe it's going on to accounting. So now what I do is I'm going to filter on my inbox. Obviously, these would go to different users. And there's my accounting input and approval requirement. So I'm going to click on respond again. So now at this point, maybe I'm adding credit limit or terms. But when I click approve at this point, it's going to move that record from suspense into the actual customer master. So now I should be able to go out and see, if I do a search and we search for all customers with the name GIL asterisk and do a find. Okay, there it is. Okay, so it created that new customer record, Gilmore West. All right. All right, so that's an example of a simple example of workflow, but you can use workflow for most anything you want to do as long as there's data associated with it. It can be an alert, it could be an approval, it could be changing a field value or changing a record, but that is giving you electronic process flow capabilities. All right, we'll talk a little bit about Microsoft Outlook integration. I mean, we've seen examples of import and talked about export to Excel, which is all common stuff, and most likely most of you have had some experience with some of that. I'm not sure all of you may have experienced the Outlook add-in. So I'm going to take you to my Outlook inbox. And in this case, we had some correspondence from Cole Randall. Okay, so this is kind of a sales/CRM example. Now you'll notice down here, well, let me actually drill into this email. So it'll be a little bit better view. Down here, the system has recognized the fact that Cole Randall's with Boschco, and it's displaying all Boschco's previous order history over here. Okay, so I can start looking at different orders, and it's displaying interactions over here. In fact, these interactions are the body of this email right here. So you can see this whole process started out with Cole asking for a request for quote. All right. We then came back and told Cole that we attached a quote, this quote number for this item, and then Cole came back and said he accepted it. Okay, and up here, now all those interactions, if any of you have used the interactions in CloudSuite, are appearing down here, as well as any other touch points we've ever had with that customer. So, you know, here's the RFQ request down here. Okay, here's the quote, and here's the acceptance. There's the body of the email. So if I were sitting in CloudSuite, I could see those interactions as well. The other piece that's nice here is something called smart linking. So you see these little yellow highlights up here. That means that CloudSuite has recognized the fact that in this Outlook email, this is a quote that's in CloudSuite, and this is an item that's in CloudSuite. So if I click on that, it's going to drill right back into CloudSuite from Outlook and show me that order right here. So pretty cool feature. It's called smart linking, and it's part of that whole Outlook integration piece that we have. Okay. All right. Shift gears again into some reporting and analytics. Now, many of you probably use data views, but in the case that there are some of you out there who haven't, I'm just going to do a quick review of what a data view is. It's basically giving you the ability to do some ad hoc type reporting. Excuse me, it's more of your transactional type spreadsheet reporting. So, oops, I'm sorry, that was my bad. Example here, I'm going to go into the customer master, and I've pulled up my records. Okay, so I've got a number of records I pulled up, and I want to do maybe a sales analysis on these records. So I'm going to go up to my toolbar, and I'm going to say I want to export these or send these to a data view. So we've used our query to pull up the records we want, and now I'm going to kind of send this into a raw, think of it as a spreadsheet for analysis. So there's my data. I've got things like credit limit and sales paid to date, year to date, sales last year. Here's my territory. You know, maybe I want customer type to appear over here before city. So I'm just going to drag and drop that. Maybe I want that to be a little bit wider column. We can do that. I can sort these. I can select on it. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this display button, and I'm going to choose show options, because that's going to give me all those filtering and summarization and selection capabilities at the top of the columns. So let's say I want a sales report that's grouped by territory and maybe excludes sales year to date that aren't that are zero, and maybe just for a couple territories. So let's do this. Let's say I only want Northeast and Southwest. Click OK. So now I've only got those. I don't want sales year to dates that are zero, so I'm going to exclude those. And so now I've kind of got what I want, but I want to group this by territory. So I'm just going to take territory, I'm going to drag it up there and drop it at the top. So now I've got my groupings, and I can expand those individually, or I could go up here and say expand all. Right, so now it's expanding those. Now maybe I wanted to summarize by sales year to date, so I'll just hit the summary. Could be a min, max, count, and average. Click OK. Okay, so there's my summary by territory for those customers. Now, because this is a data view, this is dynamic information. If I want to see the sales information for Price Brothers or a number of other pieces of information, I can simply right-click, go to either the details, I can look at RMAs, but in this case, I'll look at open customer orders. So what that's going to do is it's going to drill into customer orders, and now I could start reviewing, you know, details on those customer orders if I wanted to. All right. So that's an example of our ad hoc reporting, which again, many of you may be used to that somewhat today. But now we're in CloudSuite 10, we're taking it to a new level. We've got some burst analytical, three-dimensional type reporting capabilities that are more dashboard oriented. Now, I showed you how you can have a dashboard embedded in a home page like we see down here, all right? And I can work in that. I want it to be kind of a full screen view. So I'm gonna go up to my browser and show you that same dashboard up here. All right. So in Burst, let me kind of walk through the components of Burst for you. In Burst, what I'm gonna be able to do is I'm gonna have, and this is just an example I've done. You're gonna either tweak the existing content that you get as part of the Infor OS, or you're going to create new. And in this case, I happen to just create a dashboard from scratch. So at the top of the screen, I've got key performance indicators, things like total sales, cost of sales, total profit, average profit margin. Okay, now right now I'm looking across the board for all customers. Okay, I've got some graphs down here. I've got sales by product line by product. I got sales by customer, product line and product. Sales by region, step, state, and rep. Okay, some other graphics down here. Here's a heat map. Notice when I hover over an area, okay, it's going to show me for California, for Nevada, okay, for Arizona. It's going to color those darker depending on the amount of sales I had in the state. Here's another heat map over here. It's kind of a matrix type heat map. And then at the bottom, I've got a detail table that's showing me kind of sales details, the sales orders, who I sold to, what I sold. There's my profit percentage. And I'm using some conditional formatting to show, if it's over 40%, it might be green. If it's under, it might be red. So you can have those set up however you want. All right, it's pretty simple stuff. Now let's go up and take a look at how you might use this. One way, maybe I want to see, what were my sales in the East? Okay, well, that was New York, PA, and Connecticut. Well, who sold in New York? And now you notice as I do this, all these change, everything changes basically, because it's using the filtering that's been applied. So in this case, I'm looking at only Eastern sales. Well, I want to see in New York, who are my reps and what do they sell? So there's my rep sales in New York, all right? If I hit this original button, it goes back and takes me right back to where I started. Now let's kind of look at an example of how you might use this, a real life scenario with CloudSuite. So looks like my product line, this Max 700 product line, running a little slim on the margin, okay? So I click on that and it shows me my two products that I'm selling in that product line, all right? I click on the one that looks like it's running a little slim, and I see that, oh, it looks like Burr Oak Tool, we've had kind of a slim margin in sales to them. What's going on there? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to my detail table now, which you'll notice is filtered to just those records in the Max 700 line that we looked at. And there's our Burr Oak order right there, and there's our 13.84% margin. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click on the order number. That's going to drill right back into my CloudSuite order entry, and you can have that go wherever you want. In my case, I wanted to go to order entry. I see, oh, that's the one where the sales manager approved a low margin to retain the customer. All right, so the competitor apparently offered a lower price, and we wanted to get that deal. So that was the reason that that particular order was kind of an outlier. All right, so again, pretty simple to kind of get back to the source of the information, but I started at a very high level. I started at kind of a organizational level and kind of worked my way through to the level I wanted to look at. Right? And again, those can be embedded as a dashboard on a home page, just like we see here. All right, the last area I want to just touch on before we wrap up and entertain some questions is user mobility. A couple areas here. First of all, everything I've shown you on this home page is designed, or in the system is designed using a responsive design concept. And what that means is the applications are designed for device, no matter what device you happen to be using them on. So if you look at this screen, I'm 4 wide on my home page. Okay, if I hit my restore down button, now I'm in tablet size. Okay, you notice it went to 3 wide, and as I kind of scroll through this, you can see it's kind of rearranged that to fit that. But what if I was on a phone? If I was on a phone, it might go 1 wide. All right, so it's kind of arranging it the way it needs to be for the device I'm on. Now, if I was on a big screen on the shop floor, maybe I've got a display sitting above my CNC lathe, and I want to see a dispatch list. It can actually upsize if you want to that display and arrange it that way. So the responsive design is giving you the capability to have the system recognize the device you're on and present it in a way where it's usable, as opposed to just trying to cram everything into a very small display. Now, I'll give you an example of maybe the dashboard we just looked at. And this is an example of me on my phone in that same dashboard. You see what it's done is it's arranged it vertically so that all those graphs we just looked at are kind of vertical on my phone. And as I kind of go through this, I'm going to get to the bottom, and you'll see these, the grid will refresh here, or the table that we looked at. And you can function just like you do on the desktop. I can drag that around. So right now I'm dragging the grid with my finger, and I could select items as I work my way up. If I wanted to drill into an item, in this case, I drill into the east by tapping on the east. Okay, that shows me the individual states. I drill into New York. Okay. And if I ever want to see what my filtering is, down here in the bottom right-hand side, I tap on that. So that's my filtering that's been applied right now. And now I can drag back up to the top. So kind of an example of how some of this information might look in a mobile format. All right, I think those were some of the key things I wanted to touch on as far as kind of giving you a look and feel of the product. And I'll kind of open it up to Emily if there happen to be any questions.
All right, so we do have quite a bit of time for questions. I want to remind all of our attendees that if you have a question, you can submit it in the webinar toolbar under the questions tab. We did receive about 2 questions, Dave, so I'll start with those, and we'll see if any more come in as we start getting through this Q&A. So
Sure.
The first question comes from Dom, who asks whether CSI 10, he wants to know if it includes any predefined burst content like the dashboards.
Yeah, good question. Yes, it does include several predefined dashboards / reports that can be used for out of the box as is. You can also kind of tweak those. But as I mentioned, you can also create additional reports using the Burst tool. So you can create your own independent of those, or tweak the ones that are included.
Excellent. The next question comes from Jean, who asks, are the features that you demonstrated available for both SaaS and on-premises?
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Everything I've shown is available in both. The one thing I'll mention, however, is that we see more and more people going to the cloud and going to the SaaS deployment for a lot of reasons. But one thing I'll mention is that Infor has been very good about the way that they package products for the cloud, and you're going to get a lot of value in a cloud deployment in a packaged bundle, I guess is the best way to put it. That not that you don't have the same capabilities on premise, but you're going to kind of license them kind of a la carte, some of those features, and they're all available. It's just the licensing is a little different. So there's some advantages to going to the cloud deployment. Not that, nothing against on-prem, that's just as viable a solution. But from the standpoint of licensing, you sometimes get some advantages from a cloud deployment. So yes, they're all available in both.
Excellent. So we do have a few more questions rolling in pretty quickly here. The
Okay.
next one is from Brad. It's more of a statement that maybe we should take a look at. He said, when you were in the items form in grid view, scrolling down, the titles appeared to have scrolled off view. I thought maybe we should take a look at that or maybe address it with Brad.
Yeah, let me see. Let me just take you back there. Yeah, and actually, it's kind of a good point Brett brings up, because I should have done this, but if I were to, and I think exactly certain this is what you're asking, but if I go full screen, okay, I had my browser URL showing up there, but yeah, there's a number of columns over here. Certainly they're over there, and you can move them around or drag them however you want, but you may be talking about the fact that the scroll bar didn't appear. And that's probably more my fault than anything else, because I didn't go full screen. Now, if I go back to the URL version of that, it's there, okay? It's down there, it's right there, but I did have to scroll a little bit to get to that, and that's my fault for having all this clutter at the top of my screen, probably.
User error.
Yeah.
Brad, we will be sending out a follow-up email. That'll probably be sent tomorrow morning. If you have any questions, feel free to respond to that if we didn't address the question. So our next question comes from James. He wants to know, how does CSI 10 handle our present UET fields?
Yeah, a good question as well. Yeah, you're gonna still have the capability. Now, not knowing what version you're on, I'm gonna defer some of this maybe to one of our implementation people to help with the answer eventually. But if you're certainly going to be able to accommodate your, whatever you're doing with your current UET fields in CSI 10, but there will be a transition from your, I'm assuming, maybe you're an on-prem today, maybe you're not, but to get you to the CSI 10 system. So we can certainly accommodate those same UETs. Just depends on, kind of where you're coming from and what you need to do with them. But again, our tech folks can give you, more detail on how it's done.
Absolutely. And again, we'll be following up with everyone on the session. So James, we'll make sure to reach out to you directly regarding your question. The next question, Dave, comes from John, who is wondering, how do patches work for CSI 10? Are they automatically applied monthly?
Yeah, actually, that's something I should have mentioned when I was talking about cloud. I mean, it's kind of a continuous upgrade approach. The nice thing with the CSI 10 and the cloud deployment is that a lot of cloud systems kind of force you into that upgrade path. What Infor does is they allow you to pick and choose kind of those features that you want to activate in any one release, and they do a kind of an upgrade on a monthly cycle to that system. You'll also continue to get your patches in, your on-prem systems as well. But again, in the cloud, it is, just continually being updated by Infor. But you have the option to select which of those features that you might want to deploy or not.
And John, I think that some of your follow-up questions as well, John, I think some of them we will have to reach out to you directly. So we'll go ahead and do that after this session. We'll connect with you on some of your questions. The next comes from Philip, who asks, can you set permissions to limit the information that one user sees versus the other?
Absolutely. Yep. That can go right down to the user level. It can actually go right down to a row level if you want to, field level. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if you've used security in the past in some of the previous versions. It's comparable to that. I mean, depending on the level you're at, but it gives you, user, group, site level. And again, you can do some row level security and even field level security if you need to. So one user may not even see the field that another user sees, or may not be able to update or access a field that another user sees.
Okay. So our next question comes from Richard, who asks, And pardon the sound of the train in the background if you can hear that. But Richard asks, as a government contractor, we can only utilize cloud services that meet FedRAMP moderate compliance. Do the SaaS versions work in just the commercial cloud, or does it work in the secure versions? And then in parentheses it says Iris, I think it is called.
Okay. Yeah, there are GovCloud, we call it GovCloud options in the cloud environment, in our cloud environment, and we do have government contractors that are using the product within that architecture. So we can definitely get you some additional information on that, but there is a GovCloud option that you can feel secure in using.
Yes, and Rich, we can follow up with you with more information on the GovCloud as well. We do have one follow-up question from Rich. A quick reminder, we do have about 10 more minutes remaining in the hour. So if anyone has any additional questions, you can submit those in the questions tab of your webinar toolbar. We'll we'll be sending out a follow-up email tomorrow as well. So if you have any questions that you'd prefer a personal follow-up on, you can also respond to that email. So the last question we have right now is also from Rich, who asks, do you have experience in a hybrid environment where CloudSuite might not be online, but IDM, bursts, etc. is in the cloud? And if so, are there any issues with performance or other technical issues? Dave, can you answer that?
You know, I could take a shot, but I think that that's probably best answered by one of our implementation folks, only because I want you to get the right answer on that. I think the answer is yes, but I just want to make sure that they give you the answer you need, because they deal with that on a regular basis, where I'm in the sales side of things. So let's let the implementation folks get back on that one.
Yeah, I think we may have a solution for you there, Rich, and we'll follow up with you directly on that question specifically. The next question was, will the recording of the meeting be made available? And that's from Anthony. Yes, that the meeting recording will be sent out tomorrow morning. One more question came through. Give me one moment. Okay, the next question is from Ken, who says, can you take it out of tab form layout on the web client?
If what you're talking about, yeah, I believe I understand the question. If what you're talking about is the linked forms versus kind of floating windows, the answer is yes. So if you want to have kind of floating windows that are linked forms, that is definitely doable in the web client. If that's not the question, if the question is regarding the little tabs that sit across the screen, let me just take you there. So if it's these tabs, those can be not displayed as well. So I think what you're talking about is let me just pull up some records here. And go to a linked form. So this linked form, I've got this in tab layout right now. If you wanted that in the floating windows layout, that's capable as well in the browser version.
Okay. Hopefully we answered your question, Ken. Again, when we send out the recording tomorrow, feel free to respond to that email. We'll probably also have somebody follow up with you directly next week. We do have one more question that came through from John. Part of his question is about pricing, so we'll have to answer that separately, but because it is a specific question. But the other part of John's question was, can burst output be emailed automatically at night to any email destination?
Yeah, there are options in the burst tool set to do a distribution like that. In fact, there's a lot of other features that I didn't talk about, but yes, there are capabilities to kind of automate that. I'll mention too that not just email, a screenshot or whatever it might be. You can create PowerPoints from burst. In other words, a burst dashboard can populate a PowerPoint so that it's presentation ready right out of the chute, or it could create a PDF of that dashboard that then gets attached as an email and sent. So there's a number of options there. But yes, there are features that allow you to do that.
It is a really nice, cool tool to use. So that appears to be all of our questions. So we'll go ahead and give everyone back about 5 minutes in their day. Thank you so much, Dave, for taking time out of your day and presenting the demo to everyone. Thank you to our attendees. We hope you all have a safe and happy Memorial Day weekend. Thank you and goodbye.
Thanks, everybody.